But not many teams in the MLS. Now that we bring up the designated player rule, not many teams like New York who are carrying those 3 designated players. Outside of LA, do you see this possibly as a trend for other MLS teams? Which ones maybe? I'm not sure yet. Who are going to see? Are we going to see the tight wallets, for instance, of maybe a Robert Kraft and other owners continue, or are we going to see people kind of maybe start opening up those wallets because they're realizing if we bring in those kind of players and we bring in that kind of excitement, we can pack the stadiums. We can get people to come to these games.
I mean, you're preaching to the choir here. I sure hope they would. I really sure hope they would. To be honest, from my perspective, I don't necessarily see New England doing that, and I think you've heard, those similar sentiments echoed from their marquee player, Shalrie Joseph, in the last month or two. But I think some other teams are going to take a look at it and see what they can do. It's going to help, though, if a team like Houston does, in fact, get their own soccer-specific stadium. Not that Robertson Stadium is awful, but it doesn't compare when you look at Red Bull Arena, Home Depot Center, Kansas City's new facility that they're working on, Dick's Sporting Goods Park, even when you talk about Pizza Hut Park down in Dallas. Those are marquee, nice soccer-specific stadiums that, it doesn't have to be 60,000 plus like what they have up there in Seattle and Quest Field. That's an exception to the rule. But if you look at BMO Field in Toronto, that's perfect. And they get hold, just under 20,000 when they get 15,000 plus at a game. It's a fantastic atmosphere to watch soccer. It's an intimate place to go in and be up close to the athletes, be up close to the game, and at the same time, wear your team's colors, start chanting, start throwing some flares and ticker tape around, and just make it a festive place to watch soccer. So I hope that it's kind of a which comes first, chicken or the egg question, because is it going to take teams like Kansas City getting their own soccer-specific stadium and then seeing that they want to fill it up by bringing in marquee talent, or is it going to take bringing in marquee talent and then they have their soccer-specific stadium on the way to fill it up? It's let's hope that both happen kind of hand in hand, and that'll only help all teams across the board and MLS as a whole.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people realize that even in England or Italy, a lot of the mid to lower level teams, that's about what the stadiums they have. They're 25,000. That's about all they can hold, and that's that works for them, and it should work for us as well. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, even if you look at if you compared like Anfield to Old Trafford, Anfield's a stadium that's a smaller, it's a smaller, catered to the fans, type of feel compared to Old Trafford. I mean, both have unique characteristics, but I would say, there's even big teams that are in the Premier League, or even big teams, that play in other countries in Europe that don't necessarily have the 70,000 seat stadium.
Right.
And the same holds true if you went down to South America. Some have really big stadiums when you're talking about La Bombonera, or other stadiums around South America. But there's marquee teams that still have 40,000 seat stadiums, and that's kind of a mold that I think MLS can take on a different scale. We don't have to go to 60,000. We can go to 25,000, and if you pack it on a consistent, you're going to enjoy it.
Right, absolutely. And the atmosphere when you have a packed stadium is really amazing. I have a couple more questions for you before we call it quits. I mean, and this is the big one for me, because do you feel players like Tim Ream, like Omar Gonzalez, have to go and play in Europe to make the future United States men's national teams? Because we come to a point where future national teams, U.S. national team players, will have to have played or be playing in Europe. It just seems like we're not slowly. I mean, we're there almost now.
I would say at some point, yes, but that doesn't mean right now. When you look at those types of young players, I would be more than happy to see Omar Gonzalez continue his development with LA, be a part of the World Cup picture in 2014, have success in 2014, and then be open to a transfer following the tournament. Because at that point, he's 21 right now. Yeah. At that point, he would be 24, 25 years old, still have plenty of fresh legs in him, and be ready to go to play on a European team in a quality league, in a Bundesliga, in a Serie A, in even in La Liga in La Liga in Spain. I mean that's kind of more the growth that I'm looking for. I don't think that those players necessarily have to jump over there now, get limited amount of playing time, because it is about games right now for those types of players. It's about them, getting week in and week out, getting a good game, starting, playing 90 minutes, controlling the tempo, assuming a leadership role, and that's going to be part of their growth mentally, and then the physical part we know will come too.
Well, my only concern, Mark, is I look at a guy like Chad Marshall, who's won 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards in MLS. He's 25 now. He has really not, in some ways, blossomed into the kind of center back we wanted. He's very good. There's no doubt about that. But had he been able to go over to Europe at 22, 23 years old, and played with some of, the elite players in whatever league you want to name, he may have picked up a trick or two along the way, and this guy might be even a better player than he is. And that's kind of, I think it's the sentiment of some people is, can we get these guys that look like they're really ready to go? Maybe it's not this year, maybe it's the next year, maybe it's 2 years from now, but before the World Cup, can we get them the kind of that kind of development experience, that'll kind of bump them to the next level?
Yeah, I think you definitely could do that, but then it goes back to the question of how much then are you sacrificing what those guys are trying to be a part of here at Major League Soccer. So you're talking,
it is. Yep.
Are you talking, a social experiment where we're looking at the good of the group here, or are we talking about these guys as individuals getting an opportunity to become better in hopes that will make them better for the U.S. squad?
And it doesn't always happen, right?
And no, it doesn't always happen, and timing is everything in a lot of aspects of life, and so I think that, when those opportunities present itself, hey, if Omar Gonzalez has another good year this year, starts getting into the U.S. national team picture, and a team comes calling from Europe that wants to make a bid for him and bring him in, and MLS has to think about a lot of things, whether it's going to be good for them to let him go, whether Omar wants to let him go. I mean, what was it, a couple of years ago, I think Taylor Twellman received an offer to go over, I think it was to play for 1860 Munich, and MLS ended up turning it down, and unfortunately for Taylor, it seems like ever since that time, he's had the concussion issues that have come into play for him, and now he's joining the quote unquote dark side, like one of us, and coming into the commentating.
Sometimes you can wait too long, Mark, and I think for Taylor, even when those deals started coming from Leeds and other places, he was in his later 20s. And so, unfortunately for him, that he didn't get to take advantage of those opportunities.
So again, it's timing.
It is. It is all about it, and it's critical, as you well know. One last question, and it's a simple one. Who wins the MLS Cup?
Whew, put me on the spot.
Yeah, I thought I would.
Gosh. My heart, as you may or may not know, I've done the local broadcast for LA for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
So based on how things went the first 4 months of the season, I was thinking, hey, this is going to be the chance for them to get back to the Cup and get it done. But the way that they have played in the last 5-6 weeks tells me that they're hitting a rough spot, and there's going to maybe be more rough stuff to come in the next few weeks. But I have to say, I mean, I saw New York at the beginning of the season when they played without Henry, when they didn't have Rafa Marquez, and they, and they were sharp. I mean, I thought the way that they pinged the ball around the surface, it was actually they went up to Seattle week 2, week 3 of the season and dealt the Sounders a loss. And I think that they're going to be a team to be dealt with, and especially if they continue the trend that they're on right now. It seems like all the momentum is swinging their way. Everyone's enjoying what's going on out there. They've got a good run of games going right now, and if they can possibly close out the season continuing that direction, it's going to be real tough to knock them off a pedestal come playoff time.
I'd agree, and I'm an LA fan too, in all fairness and openness here, so I'd have to agree with your assessment there. But Mark, I want to thank you again for coming on the show. Really appreciate it, and hopefully maybe we'll talk again down the line about we'll see how your MLS prediction ended up.
Yep, that sounds great. The line's open anytime, and more than happy to come back and talk soccer. We got to squeeze in some women's professional soccer next time, too, because I think the ladies need a little love as well.
You know what? You're probably – no, you're probably right. You are right, and we'll do that. Fair's fair. Thanks, Mark. I appreciate it.
You got it.
All right. Take care.